This 50mm prime is only £127 or $169. It has autofocus and it's pretty similar in size to the Lumix 50mm f1.8. So is it worth getting, or does the price tell the story when it comes to overall quality? In today's video, I'll be showing some comparisons between the super inexpensive Mikey 50mm f1.8 and the two Lumix 50mm primes, the f1.8 and the S Pro 1.4, but with more focus on the 1.8 because it's a lot closer in price and size. Here's a few images taken with the Mikey 50mm and the Lumix 50mm f1.8. All images are unedited RAWs that were processed through Lightroom. Can you tell the difference? I can reveal that image A was the Lumix 50mm and B was the Mikey, and I'm going to continue referring to the brand as Mikey for the rest of this video because that's the only way I know how to pronounce it, Mikey. Like the person Mikey. As an L-mount exclusive channel, it's always great to see new brands extend their offerings to this ecosystem. In the last few years, the range of options within the L-mount has grown substantially, and I genuinely believe that it's one of the best ecosystems to invest in, with multiple camera and lens manufacturers in the mix. The first thing I was interested in testing was the AF performance. Naturally, being a much cheaper lens, I expected the Mikey 50mm to perform the worst. However, as you can see in these examples, it holds up pretty well against the two Lumix 50mm primes. It's definitely not as good and it does have some focus breathing issues, but for £127, I'd be very happy with that. The focus with the Mikey tends to grab a little slower but very smoothly, and I actually think the focus pulls look really nice. The two Lumix lenses are obviously faster though, and the focus breathing is minimal on both. So while I'd give the AF win to the Lumix lenses, I definitely wasn't disappointed with the Mikey lens. The Lumix lenses are also quieter when focusing, and the Mikey does have a tiny bit of motor noise when acquiring focus. I've got no idea if this is the right way to say the brand name, by the way, but Mikey is what I'm saying. The minimum focus distance with a Mikey 50mm is around 0.63 meters, while the Lumix 50mm f1.8 is 0.45 meters and the S Pro is 0.44 meters. And here's a representation of what that would look like in the real world. I did find that the minimum focusing distance did annoy me a few times when I wanted to get a little bit closer to my subject, so do bear that in mind with this lens. Build quality wise, the Mikey doesn't disappoint either. It's made of high quality durable plastic like the S primes are and doesn't feel flimsy in the hand at all. I would still say that the Lumix 50mm f1.8 feels slightly more premium, but none of them compared to the 50mm S Pro of course, because that lens is just a beast. The Mikey 50mm f1.8 that I have weighs 368 grams, while my copy of the Lumix 50mm f1.8 weighs 302 grams, so the Mikey is a heavier option while being just slightly larger than the Lumix as well. Even though it's a bigger lens than the S primes, the front filter thread size is smaller at 58mm, with the S primes having a filter thread size of 67mm. This may not be a huge deal for some, but I've always liked the consistency with my filter thread sizes across my primes, so it would have been really nice if they were the same, although again it's really not a big deal. Now let's talk about the image quality a little more, and again I was surprised at the Mikey's overall performance. The photos look nice and sharp with a decent amount of contrast, and it does render images slightly warmer than the two Lumix primes. It looks respectably sharp at f1.8 all the way through the range, and it has a really nice character to the background fall off. Here's a few comparisons so you can see how all of these 50mm lenses compare. I noticed while doing these tests that my copy of the Lumix 50mm f1.8 has a sharpness issue at f1.8, and I'd never noticed it before because I very rarely shoot at f1.8. I'm positive that this is an issue with my copy only though, because the other S primes I have are very sharp at their maximum aperture. The Lumix S Pro is definitely the sharpest lens of the bunch without any question whatsoever. The optics of that lens are truly phenomenal, but it costs around £2,000, so literally 10 times the price of the Mikey. I think for the price, the Mikey does an excellent job, and it's definitely going to be just fine for a lot of people. We're now in a very exciting territory where more of the smaller third-party brands are beginning to enter the L-mount space, meaning that we're only going to get more and more affordable options. I think the Mikey 50mm proves that you can get a lot for your money, and that they're ready to start offering some very attractive options priced very, very well. In fact, they also have the 85mm f1.4 and the 35mm f2, both with AF available for the L-mount. The crazy part is that the 85mm f1.4 only costs £375 and the 35mm f2 is only £135, so you could effectively get two incredibly versatile focal lengths for just £510, which is still £40 cheaper than the Lumix 85mm f1.8 by itself. I'd be really interested in checking out the other L-mount options that they have, so maybe I'll try to cover those two lenses as well in the future. If you're on a budget and want to make your money stretch as much as it possibly can, then I definitely recommend checking out this 50mm. It's definitely got some shortcomings like the minimum focusing distance, the slightly slower AF performance, and the focus breathing, but for £127 I genuinely cannot fault it. It's a full frame lens with a fast maximum aperture and decent autofocus for less than the price of the Lumix 26mm f8, a manual focus only fixed f8 lens. So really you can't argue with the value here, and as you can see in all of the images in this video, this lens holds up very well against the Lumix 50mm f1.8. I test out a lot of L-mount lenses here on the channel, so if you're interested in that sort of thing and you haven't already subscribed, then please do so. And if you're interested in hearing my thoughts on all of the L-mount lenses I've tested so far on the channel, then check out this video next.